Let's bring back in our think tank. All right, Randy, this one is an absolute tragic story. But how important do you think the location of where baby Evelyn was found? Because I remember seeing Megan on the news crying, saying that grandma had the baby, and now the baby's found at a property that may be connected to grandma.
You know, it's a head scratcher. Sometimes you go with what you got, and if that's what you have, is, you know, there's going to be, nowadays we talk about DNA and forensic work. Well, in the old days, we looked at title, and we went to the record room and went downstairs in the basement of all the courthouses, and we found a chain of title. And they're going to have some fancy paperwork that's going to look like grandma was there. This is grandma's place. That doesn't prove murder, but it's the best they got, and it's a good starting place.
Yeah, Josh, as you look at this investigation, I think they're going to begin with all the family members before they even look outside the family, if that's where baby Evelyn was found.
Absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of things in this case that just don't add up, especially from anybody outside looking in at this family. The fact that the child was gone for so long, that baby Evelyn's gone for so long before mom reports Evelyn missing. And, you know, maybe she can explain that away with saying my mom had her, but that's going to be tough. That's a hard explanation for a jury, that she's that afraid of what her mother's going to do with the child if she calls the police or says that the child's missing. I mean, you know, she could have called defects. There's a number of different things she could have done. And then, you know, you look at outside of the mother and start looking at the family, the history, all the mugshots, prior arrest, look at the history of that address. This is, you know, it's a different world than what most jurors live in. This isn't what they're accustomed to seeing.
Marie, when I look at Grandpa, he's the one who actually calls it in that Evelyn is missing. He is the one who has issued public statements excluding his ex from the public statement, saying the family needs some time to deal with this. The fact that, number one, his statement excludes Grandma, the fact that Grandma may at one point have been living at this residence. I mean, these are huge parts of this investigation.
It is all very important in the investigation, but the fact that Grandpa excludes Grandma, I don't think is going to matter one hill of beans.
How about the fact that he's the one that calls it in, though? I mean, no one else seems that concerned that baby Evelyn's missing. He's the one who shows concern first.
I think for him, that makes him look less responsible, but looking at this and the whole picture of it, it looks, and it's speculation, but it looks like it was someone in the family, and with the stories, the mother's stories changing, either she knows who did it or she was involved in it herself. I mean, that's speculation. We do have to prove the murder beyond a reasonable doubt. But let's wait to see what the DNA shows and what other evidence they're going to introduce.
Randy, I remember you mentioned Casey Anthony. I mentioned it once, I think, too, as well. I mean, that case, basically, it came back to Casey Anthony, and they said it was a murder. It was an accident. All along, it was an accident. If this ever goes to trial, and if a family member is on trial, would you expect that to be the defense, or would you expect them to point the finger at someone else in the family?
Well, if all the fingers are pointing at them and they can't get out of it, it might morph into an accident. You know, that's what happens with all these cases. Vinny, you've covered so many of them that it almost always seems to be something, you know, someone who knew the person, someone in the family. And that's one aspect where it always seems to be that. On the other hand, a jury, most normal people don't think that a family member is capable of doing something like this to their own family member. That certainly was the case in Casey Anthony, many other cases, that resistance, that human resistance to a mother couldn't do that to their own child, to their own grandchild. So, you know, where's the middle ground? Maybe if grandma says, you know what, it did happen, but here's why, it was an accident, that might be her best defense, because nobody thinks that a grandmother would intentionally harm their own kin, their own grandchild.
And a reminder, as all our guests have reminded us, no one has been charged yet. They are investigating this case, but the question tonight really is that investigation focusing on the family, and is it focusing on specific family members? When we come back.